Welcome to the Action Network studio in New York City. I'm Maria Marino, and this is Green Dot Daily. We're live every weekday at 3 Eastern on the Action app and YouTube channel. Today on the show, what's the reason behind the Bills Dolphins spread? Patrick Everson will enlighten us about that. Plus, why Mike Calabrese is feeling good about a parlay he has involving the Washington Huskies. But we've got a full slate tonight in the NBA. That's where we start. The budding rivalry continues between the Bucks and Pacers at 7 Eastern. Pacers have won 3 of 4 meetings this season, including one on New Year's Day. 71% of bets and 93% of money are on Bucks minus 3.5 to get that revenge. Giannis to go under 36.5 points is an Action Pro top prop. The Suns' 4-game win streak is on the line as they host the Clippers at 9 Eastern. 86% of bets and 92% of money are on the Clips, minus 3.5. Kevin Durant will miss his second straight game with a hamstring injury. Devin Booker only scored 10 last time out. His points prop is at 27.5. Lakers and Heat, both coming off 2 straight losses, clash at 10 Eastern in LA. The home team favored. Jimmy Butler is out for Miami with a foot injury. Anthony Davis is the league's second leading rebounder at 12.3 a game. AD to go under 12.5 boards is an Action Pro top prop.
Gonna go on and on about the rest. Now everybody's on back-to-back.
How dare you put words in his mouth?
They celebrated like they won a championship. I gotta find some type of way to fade them.
LA nightlife is undefeated.
Call me a hater if you want. Blech.
Yeah, these guys are too soft, man. I keep saying it.
That's why it's true, because it makes me look smart.
Oh, it's time for more money with Matt Moore and Jay Money. Always great to see you guys. We're going to get your best bets for tonight in just a moment. But since this is the first time we're all together in the new year, we're going to start by getting some NBA resolutions for 2024. Matt, why don't you tip us off?
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's start with the Atlanta Hawks. My New Year's resolution for the Atlanta Hawks is get your shit together. Okay, the Hawks are 7-25 against the spread. 7-25 against the spread, the worst mark in the NBA. They're on track to miss their win total by 9 wins already. They are already up against it. There's a lot of talk in league circles that this might be what's being called a reset year for the Hawks, where they try and install some new things that they're going to use going forward, evaluate talent. There's talk about them trading DeJounte Murray. Trae Young's actually kind of figured some stuff out and is having a better season, and they're still garbage. The Hawks have so much talent. They have good coaching. For the love of God, Hawks, get your shit together.
Woo! Love the enthusiasm, as per usual. Jay, what's your NBA resolution?
Yeah, I'd like for the Suns to get their shit together as far as defense. I think they can do it with offense, but if this team starts playing some defense, I really do still think that they can make it to the NBA Finals, especially when they have the big 3 in there: Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant as well. And also stay on the court as well, man. This team just can't put it together as far as not being injured there. But if they can start playing some defense, I definitely think they have a pathway to make it to the NBA Finals. So Suns, get your shit together on the defensive.
So apparently a lot of people need to get their shit together. My NBA resolution is for the Brooklyn Nets. And I say this: be careful with your culture, Nets. Because, as you guys know, last week on December 27th, they played the Bucks on the second night of a back-to-back, treated it like a preseason game, sat 3 of their starters, barely played 2 others, despite one of them being Mike Calabrese actually wanting to play. This was a winnable game. They were down 1 in the third quarter. You could have made a statement against one of the best teams in the NBA, but no. And guess what? They've now lost 4 in a row, including one to the Wizards. When you're not trying to win, that's not okay. And the players are seeing that. Bad for the culture. Don't do it. And I am somebody who, I get rest at times to an extent. This was not the way to do it.
You know who's missed a lot of back-to-back so far this season is Jimmy Butler. Let's move on.
Well, Jimmy Butler is also injured, Matt.
right now.
As I mentioned. But listen, I know you have one more resolution for us, so why don't you give it to us?
Yeah, and this one isn't somebody who needs to get their shit together. By the way, we're talking about this as if it's like everyone after the new year is like trying to be like, this is gonna be the year. I'm gonna stop going out and drinking till 3 a.m. and I'm gonna get my love life in order. All those things that young folks say in the New Year's never winds up happening. This one though does involve a young player. It's Jalen Green. Look, Jalen Green this year has actually bought into a lot of the stuff that he needed to do over the last couple of years. He is trying to play within a system. The problem is that Jalen Green does not seem to be a player who can function that way. His efficiency is at absolutely horrific levels. It continues. He is one of the worst jump shooters off the dribble this season. That's supposed to be his role. We're seeing a lot of the guys from the G League Ignite struggle in the NBA because they don't know how to play structured NBA basketball. The Rockets are much better this season, but they need Jalen Green to be the guy they drafted number 2, to be a superstar level player. He has done so many of the things that he needs to do. He's working more on defense. He's trying to work quality shots. He's not breaking the offense, but he's going to have to produce. This is the bar if you want to be a star in the NBA. Jalen Green really is up against it because if he doesn't figure this out, Houston's going to have to go in a different direction. They've got bigger priorities. They've got Alperen Şengün, who looks like a star. Jabari Smith Jr. has turned a corner. Jalen Green needs to keep up with his fellow young guys in Houston and turn a corner, and that starts with making some shots.
All right, well, now that we have put the league on notice, I'll just go ahead and say we can all be better in 2024. It's not just the people in the NBA we just called out. But that being said, Jay Money, you're off to a good start in 2024 with your picks. Why don't you share your best bet for this evening?
Yeah, my best bet for tonight is Wizards team total under 114.5. I'm expecting the Cavs to bounce back here defensively after allowing 124 points in their last game to Toronto Raptors. Went back and looked at it. After the Cavs allow 120 more points, they average 108 points in the next game as far as defensively here. So Wizards aren't the best offensive team. They do like to run and gun. They're the number 1 in pace, but this is the 24th team in offensive rating in their last 5 games. I'm expecting the Cavs to lock these boys up tonight. They might not touch 105 points tonight. So give me the Wizards team total under 114.5.
Meanwhile, Matt, you're going to be busy tonight on the NBA bet stream for Bucks Pacers in the NBA app. What is your pick for that game? By the way, one of the most intriguing games in a minute.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Fascinating game. Love this matchup. Very excited to be on it. You can find it in the NBA app on League Pass. Just go to the stream section for Bucks Pacers. You can catch us betting all things live during that game. My best bet for this one's going to be under 258.5. Now, look, I don't like betting Pacers unders. I've loved betting Pacers overs this season. It's been one of the most fun things you can do. But look, the market has hit its zenith, and these teams, I think, have started to hit their zenith offensively and as far as being bad defensively as well. The under has hit in 5 of the last 6 for the Pacers. Big reason for that is Indiana is, I can't believe this, 12th in defense over the last 2 weeks. They have started to play a little bit, not a lot, a little bit of defense. The Bucks are 13th in defense over the last 2 weeks. This is a high point for the Bucks and Pacers defense this season. This is a low point, I think, for some of them offensively in terms of the matchup. They're very familiar with each other, and when you're this familiar, this is going to be their 5th matchup this season. We very rarely see that kind of thing in the NBA. Now the in-season tournament allows for it. You see a team this much, you learn how to guard their actions a little bit better. Again, we're not talking about some crazy low under here. It's 258.5. But I am going to go ahead and project it. I've got projected around 250. I'll take the under 258.5 in Bucks Pacers tonight.
Plus, I think this game means a little something to both these teams, so they're just going to hopefully put maximum effort out there on the defensive end. And Jay, I did want to follow up with you real quick on this one because I know you're really big on revenge spots. And the fact that 2 days ago, the Pacers broke a 15-game home win streak for the Bucks and beat them on their home floor. Were you staying away from this for a reason? Anything giving you caution as to, the Bucks trying to get revenge?
Yeah, the Bucks, they definitely have revenge, and it's not something I would go against too many times. But I do know that they can't guard opposing guards. I mean, Benedict Mathurin did whatever he wanted in that game. Tyrese Haliburton did whatever he wanted in that game as well. But also, the Pacers don't have an answer for Giannis, so it's really kind of pick your poison type of game. But I agree with Matt there. You definitely have to look towards the under. I mean, the fifth game so far this season between these two teams, he broke it down perfectly. They know what each other like, or what each other like to do there. So I definitely look towards the under as opposed to trying to figure out who's going to win here.
All right, sounds good. Jay Money, Matt Moore, always a blast with you guys. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Anytime.
Over to NFL, and the game of the week is Bills Dolphins on Sunday night. With the AFC East title at stake, Buffalo opened as a 1.5-point dog. Then, as of the 31st, became a 1.5-point favorite, currently a 3-point favorite. So for more insight from the sports books, we say hello to senior reporter for Vegas Insider, Patrick Everson. Good to see you again in the new year. Why -3 for this line, Patrick?
Well, first off, thanks for having me, and Happy New Year to you and the whole crew there at Green Dot Daily. Look, this game has a few fascinating components, not the least of which is what you just brought up, and that is the 3-point spread. Buffalo was reeling in November, and now a 3-point favorite on the road against Miami. And Chase Michelson, risk supervisor at the Superbook, he told me on Sunday night, he said this game has to be at Bills -3. They actually opened 2.5, but they went to 3 real quickly on Sunday evening. He said it has to be Bills -3 because the wise guys would be all over Buffalo at anything south of 3. And the reason for that, Maria, is twofold. Miami getting completely trucked last Sunday in Buffalo. I guess I could have said something more harsh than that based on some of the a couple of nice little expletives in that first segment. Now I know what I can get away with. I'll work on that.
In Baltimore, by the way.
That's absolutely in Baltimore, by the way. Second, the Dolphins mounting injury list. Tua Tagovailoa has got a shoulder issue, so he's questionable. Sounds like he's going to go. But Raheem Mostert sat out last week. So did Jalen Waddle. We'll have to see what happens there. However, on the flip side of that, Michelson said going to Bills -3.5, moving them up, could also influence sharp bettors the other direction. He said at this point, if we went to 3.5, I think there would be Dolphins buyback, and he said that today. And just on the game itself, Zachary Lucas of Twinspire Sportsbook just told me, Maria, the Bills are essentially in a must-win scenario, and the public is backing them as we're at midweek. He said, I don't see any scenario where we don't need the Dolphins in this spot.
Okay, so that points to some liability for the game itself, but in addition to the line movement on the game, we know odds have drastically shifted for Bills' future. So what kind of liability does that present for the books?
Well, I can tell you, speaking first for BetMGM on the futures market, this has been a huge shift in the last month. Buffalo's turnaround here has been from a month ago, December 5th, plus 1,100 to win the division, with the Dolphins -2,500 to win the division. Again, this is at BetMGM. A week ago, Miami -350, Buffalo +2.25. So it's starting to kind of get interesting, but still Miami very much in the driver's seat. Now, head into this game in Miami, Bills are -160 favorites to win the division, while the Dolphins are +135 underdogs. And Hal Eglin at BetMGM said today, will be Dolphins fans Sunday afternoon, kind of echoing the statement from Zachary Lucas. Will be Dolphins fans Sunday afternoon for sure. The Bills were up to +1,100 in early December, as I just noted. He said, so there are some customers sitting pretty right now. And he added that early action on the game favors the Bills, as it does elsewhere, which he expects to continue. And then the other component is the Super Bowl odds, which have really shifted as well, Maria. 5 weeks ago, everyone thought Buffalo was finished. Caesar Sports, in a report I have up now at Vegas Insider, had Buffalo out as far as 40-1. Now the Bills, who might not even make the playoffs, are the 8-1 co-third choice in Caesar Super Bowl odds, joined by the Dallas Cowboys. And what Caesar's vice president of trading, Craig Muckler, said about this in a conversation I had with him a couple of days ago, he said his shop is most concerned with the Buffalo Bills in this market. He said the betting public saw through this and that the 40-1 odds were very appealing. Liability has stacked up on Buffalo, and he said the Bills, which were a decent winner for us, now are a huge winner for the clients.
It's so fascinating. The turnaround from the Bills' beginning of the season to now has been absolutely remarkable, because going in, everybody thought this was a team that could contend for a Super Bowl. That obviously changed, and now we're talking about it again. But let's switch gears We got the college football playoff,
Mm-hmm.
national title game coming up. The line right now is Michigan -4.5 against Washington. What can you tell us about just how that came to be?
Well, it was interesting. So late Monday night, as the last few minutes of the game were unfolding, you recall, Washington was up 13. It looked like it was over. So the Superbook went ahead and put a line out. They put up Michigan -3.5 versus Washington. And at that point, I spoke with Chase Michelson again at the Superbook, and there was still time left in the game, but it looked like it was kind of a done deal. And side note on this, Maria, there's nothing quite like having a story in the bag, ready to go, ready to hit publish, and then having the other team, in this case Texas, nearly force a complete rewrite of the article. Thankfully, Washington held on, and I didn't have to adjust much, but I did have to say it was a really exciting second half. Yeah, exactly. So what's interesting about the 3.5 opener, and even the number right now at -4.5, is this. Michelson said that before either of the semifinal games, before those kicked off on Monday, they had hypotheticals up. And the hypothetical for Michigan-Washington was Michigan -7, and yet they opened 3.5. And he said it was because of the way those two games played out and the way Washington was overwhelmingly bet against Texas. So they cut that number in half to Michigan 3.5. Michelson said they could hardly write a Texas ticket, so they know Washington is going to be very well bet for Monday's championship game. Another reason for that expectation, he said, is because it is a championship game. He said that invites a lot more casual, recreational, betting-curious people who watch the game. And he said particularly in a championship game, there's so much more public handle than in just a regular week-to-week game, Maria. And he said the public is going to want to be entertained, so the Super expects the public betting masses will bet on the entertaining team, and that's underdog Washington and high-flying quarterback Michael Penix Jr. And Michelson kind of summarized it with this. Michigan didn't really impress everybody against Alabama in the way Washington's offense did against Texas. And he added, we're not going to be afraid to write Michigan money, and in fact, the concern is they won't see enough Michigan money.
Well, hey, a good underdog story is something that a lot of people root for, and Michigan has sort of been the big bad wolf, throughout this season. So you could see the public maybe wanting to go against them. Patrick, always fascinating. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Tell Michael good luck. Let's go.
I'll tell him. Yeah, we're going to stick with college football here and check out how odds have changed from preseason to now. For the championship finalists, Washington was at +4,000 in August, now +155, while Michigan was at +800, now the favorite to win the national title at -185. Let's welcome in our college sports expert, Michael Calabrese. And you probably just heard Patrick wish you good luck. We all wish you good luck because you have a very interesting parlay happening. Why don't you fill us in on the backstory, and have you considered cashing out?
So, as is tradition, every end of July, August, I put together all of my futures. There's a huge board. I'm mixing and matching conference championship futures. Unfortunately, Colorado State was used in many of them dating back to August for me. But one of the last ones on the board for me was the Washington Huskies at 50-1. And I was kind of thinking to myself, I believe they had an opportunity, if everything went right this season, to get into the college football playoff either undefeated or with one loss. But even at 50-1, I still viewed them as probably needing to win 2 games as an underdog in the semifinals. So what could I pair them up with to make a really juicy parlay? And the only NFL MVP ticket that I liked was Lamar Jackson. So I was like, I'm going to go ahead and put Lamar and Washington together, call it a Purple Rain parlay, get the mojo going from that perspective, and then just let it ride. And I did. And, by October, I was saying to myself, all right, Lamar is still live. He's a top 10 MVP candidate, and Washington had just beaten Oregon. The number from a cash out perspective has got to be pretty good. And they're offering me about $120. So obviously I wasn't taking that. And it's inched up and up and up in the past few weeks. And now we are sitting at north of $5,000. And it's tempting, but it's not the right move to cash out, because if you just look at the implied probability, it would have to be in like the $6,300 range, given that Lamar is about a 99% likelihood to win the NFL MVP. And Washington's in that like 35 to 41%, depending on the book, just by their money line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this ride. Pre-game, I am not hedging 1 iota. I am going to put some money aside to potentially look at a Michigan live number. If the ideal scenario is if Washington scores first, and that live number goes to, Michigan +3, maybe plus money. Play one of those sides, just a little bit of a hedge, but I want most of it riding because I still think Michael Penix and this offense are a bad matchup for Michigan. I understand that everybody is crowing that this Michigan defense is generational. They can't stop anybody, or they can stop anyone. They have not faced a passing offense like this, and the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line in front of Penix, I think, is going to be able to keep him clean for the majority of this game, because that was really the difference against Alabama. Alabama had a lot of weapons, but Milroe was under duress the entire game. I think he was sacked 6 times in the first half. You're not going to win playing football like that. Washington has the difference makers up front with their hog mollies.
I'm glad you shared sort of your reasoning for why you legitimately think that Washington could pull this off, because I was curious of your opinion. I totally stand by the decision to let it ride. We're all going to be bleeding purple for you, Mike. But before we let you go, we know you are betting college basketball as per usual. So what's your play for tonight's slate?
So this one was the biggest discrepancy between my power rankings and the spreads tonight. I actually have Colgate -19 in this game against Loyola, and it's pretty simple. Colgate's challenged themselves with some really difficult road games this year. They played Arizona, they played Illinois, but they've been the class of the Patriot League going on just about 5 years. And since 2017, when Coach Langle really got this program cooking and they became either the champion or the runner-up every single year in the Patriot League, they have been the top performing team in the entire country against the spread in conference play, cashing 62.4% of their tickets as a home favorite. In the Patriot League. I just view this as a team that's finally going to get off the mat, and Loyola coming up to Colgate to Hamilton is the perfect time to play them, because Loyola is one of the worst offensive teams in the entire country. They're 343 in terms of KenPom offensive efficiency. They already have 5 losses this season by 13 or more points. And what's also interesting about Colgate, they haven't played up to their standard on the offensive end. And I think a bit of that is due, for some positive shooting regression in this one. But defensively, this may be Coach Langle's best team since 2017. Shot quality puts them just outside of the top 100 defensively. So I think they're going to be able to shut down a Loyola team that really struggles to shoot, and it's particularly awful from the line. And obviously, when you want to cover a big number, it's nice when teams leave points out there, missing the front ends of 1-and-1s and just not being able to complete those 3-point plays. So I'll go with the Raiders here, laying 12.5.
Well, Mike, we appreciate it as always. Look forward to catching up with you again very soon.
Thanks, Maria.
We have a very exciting wildcard weekend coming up. You can sweat your bets with Chad Millman, Simon Hunter, Chris Raybon, Sean Kerner, and Stuckey at our watch party on Saturday, January 13th. And on Sunday, we have a live edition of the Favorites podcast. It's all going down at the Shepherd and the Knucklehead in Hoboken, New Jersey. We had so much fun when we did this in December. We had to run it back. Click the links below or go to eventbrite.com and search the Favorites to RSVP. And remember, any picks we give out here on the show, you could easily reference by following Green Dot Daily in the Action app. We keep track so you don't have to. That's going to do it for Green Dot Daily. I'm Maria Marino. Thanks so much for hanging with us, and I'll see you again tomorrow at 3 Eastern on the Action Network YouTube channel and the Action app.